Deep right field. Down the line it goes. Castellanos is out of room. It's out of runner goes. 3-2 pitch hit down the line. Is it fair? It is a fair ball. Into the corner. Off and running. Chu. You're out third. He's going to score easily. And into second. Hit hard. Hit deep. Up and out. Goes a man Rosario. And there's a fly ball. Left field. It's deep. It's up. It's gone to the porch. Deep left center field, it is gone to Souvenir City.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very frustrating episode of the Guardians of the CLE podcast. I'm your host, Max Goldstein, joined as always by my co-host, Mel Kirby. And, just to put it short, Cleveland Guardians fans are not exactly happy this week. I mean, after going, 7-2 on our very long road trip over the last couple of weeks, we come back home to Progressive Field and we have dropped 5 out of our last 6 games at home. So, Mel, I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. There's no other word but frustrating to explain what the Guardians have been going through this week. I kind of wanted to hear what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is this team has just lost their clutch hitting. And I think we're really seeing that. Yeah, this team is a ton of fun to watch when they are clutch and they are getting those big hits. But you live and die by that too. Just like anything else in baseball, that pendulum can turn really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And we're kind of seeing that with the guys right now. And I mean, they can't. It's funny because we look at that 11-10 game last week. And I don't know about you, but throughout that whole game, I'm like, they're going to come back. Like, they're just going to win this game.
Yeah. But
this week, a 1-0 deficit seems like too much. And a big part of it is we know Jose doesn't look right. I mean, I see people on Twitter trying to say him popping the ball up as much as he is normal, but it's not. And if you're one of those people who thinks that you're seeing him pop the ball up a ton since missing those games in LA, you'd be correct. His infield fly ball percentage has just shot up to 27%. Since those 2 games he missed. And I don't know if you caught it, but over the weekend against Boston, it kind of looked like he was pulling that hand off the bat a little sooner, probably to favor that thumb a little bit, which could be a reason why he's not driving the ball as much as we're typically used to. And I don't know. I think I was all for putting him on the IL back when he missed those 2 games in LA, just so it could have been retroactive. But of course, we all want a healthy Jose Ramirez in our lineup, but he's not healthy right now. And I'm not saying he's hurting us because he's not, but he's getting absolutely no help from anybody around him either. Over the last 7 days, Oscar Gonzalez, 3 for 23, Kwan, 4 for 18, Owen Miller, 2 for 18, who has just been randomly horrendous on both sides of the ball this week. Ooh. Naylor, 2 for 13, Straw, 3 for 19. And there's a couple guys on that list we can dive into a little deeper in a minute, but that's not going to get it done right there.
Yeah, I mean, we've all watched Jose Ramirez for over the last 5 years, and anybody that sees this to be like a regular day at the ballpark for Jose is just hasn't been watching him as closely, I guess, as Mel and I have, because yeah, you nailed it on the head. He got injured out there in LA. We put him on the bench for 2 days, and then we're like, okay, let's get back out there. But if you're watching his swing and if you're watching the result of these plays, he's not barreling up that baseball. He's missing it, and in turn, he's popping it up a ton in foul territory. And for those foul balls, a lot of them have just gotten over the netting or just gotten over the dugout. They've been close outs, right? There've been foul outs. There've been pop-ups on the infield. And you said he's not hurting us, but there have been scoring opportunities, right? He's come up to the plate with a guy on second base, nobody out, just doesn't get the guy moved on over to third base. But that like you were saying, is on the rest of the lineup as well. But he's, for being, top 3 in MVP voting over the last 2 years and being one of the front runners until Aaron Judge is, continuing that success it is at the plate in his own right? It's not the regular Jose. And then, like you were saying, he's not getting that help. Oscar Gonzalez, just as Steven Kwan did when he joined the team, was on an absolute tear. You thought he could do no wrong. And now we're starting to see what Steven Kwan was going through earlier on in the year happened to Oscar Gonzalez, 3 for 23. And Stephen Kwan, he's starting to slump in his own right. But yeah, it's just been a frustrating week.
And they're not really taking their walks like they were either. They're kind of forcing the issue. And I think that comes with a young team just pressing too much. Earlier when they were red hot at the plate, they had that confidence that the guy behind me is going to pick me up. I don't have to hit a home run. I just got to get on base and the guy behind me is going to drive me in, because that's what they were doing. They were perfecting small ball. But now they're pressing, they're swinging at bad pitches, they're popping the ball up a ton outside of Jose. I think yesterday in the doubleheader, I think they had 1 walk on the day and like 10 plus strikeouts, which is not this team's identity. And they don't hit the long ball. They don't hit the ball out of the park. So if they're not getting on base and they're not putting up tough at bats, like they didn't make that Winder or whatever, that rookie last night, they didn't make him work at all. They were swinging early in the count. And, it starts with those guys at the top. Like we saw Miles Straw get moved down to the number 9 spot. And me, I was like, that's going to get him going. He's going to have less pressure. We're going to get back to seeing Miles Straw. But I think it's been, about a week since he moved down to number 9 in the start of the Twins series last week. And he's 5 for 27, a 185 average, and he's only got 3 walks. And that's been such a big part of his game, is taking those walks. He's just not getting on base anywhere near what we saw when he came over last year. And you just start to wonder. We know his defense is extremely valuable, but when you have a hole at catcher, obviously a definite hole at catcher right now. First base has been iffy. We know Naylor will pick it back up, but how many holes can we have in this lineup? And I think that's the problem right now, is how long can his bat be this ice cold before it starts making his defense less valuable?
Right. I mean, you nailed it on the head again, right? Like when you have that hole at catcher, we know that for the last decade or so, other than Carlos Santana, who only fielded the position for a season, maybe less, like we haven't signed catchers to do well at the plate. Their job is to protect the plate, have good defense, throw out runners at second base. We got a little happy with what Roberto Perez was doing over his last year and a half on the Guardians, right? But I mean, other than that, we haven't fielded catchers over the last decade that hit the ball, right? So it's kind of expected that there's no offensive input on that front. And
we predicted that too. I think in the offseason, we're like, you're not going to get the offense from the catcher spot. They provide, handling that pitching staff, playing good defense. So if you're going to have that hole there, you got to kind of plug the other holes with pretty decent offense. And when you got a guy like Will Brennan playing center field at Columbus, and he's leading all of AAA with a 353 average, 6 homers, 65 RBIs, 22 doubles, 10 steals, a 901 OPS. I mean, he's not on the 40-man roster either, so they'd have to open up a spot for him. But like, he's a guy who would have to be added this offseason. And if they don't get a good look at him at the major league level, he could be one of just many guys who they lose because they just have too many guys that they can't evaluate all the talent they have. But it's just something about his hit tool. I would hate to see them lose this guy for nothing. I think he's screaming he deserves a chance. Let Miles be the 4th outfielder defensive replacement for a couple weeks. Just let him, do what he does best and play solid defense when we need it the most.
Right. It's hard. It's so hard to put Miles Straw on the bench, though, just because he makes nearly every single every single play, and he makes the play correctly.
And there's a clear role for him. Like, I don't want anyone thinking I want him off the team. Like, there's a clear role for him on this team, and I don't regret the extension they gave him either.
I mean, it's just about him and Ty. Wow, I'm forgetting the hitting coach's last name here real quick.
Chris Valleca now.
Chris Valleca, right. It was Van Berkeley. That's last year. So Chris Valleca and Miles Straw, just, something's got to start clicking for them at some point, because it's been a frustrating season so far at the plate for Miles. But, I'm not, it's getting to the point where I'm thinking about trading his defense for somebody else, but it's just so hard for me to throw Miles out of the everyday lineup just for what he can bring. But there's another guy that we've both been high on this season, and he's just been a little bit disappointing, a bit disappointing, I should say. I mean, with a couple errors at first base and, not getting the job done at the plate. Owen Miller is slowly starting to get into this slump. And, like I was saying at the first base with those errors, like, I think it's clear that Josh Naylor, that's his position. And I think Tito, with the amount of games we are supposed to be playing and have played in the last couple weeks, I think he was just trying to give him some time off. But like, these are valuable reps that Owen Miller is just passing up because he's just not getting his job done. I think there was a couple low throws at first base from Amin Rosario or Andres Jimenez, Jose Ramirez, but you're a major league first baseman.
Gotta scoop him.
Supposed to be a walk in a park, right? And then there was a line drive that he misjumped it, right? Like, they're not that. It's not. I'm not ripping on him for plays that are hard to make. I mean, these are plays that are hurting us, right? And he's not making it up at the plate. I thought after that error the other day, he was going to come up to the plate with a guy on base and get a clutch hit, strike out. It's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
What's going on with Owen Miller? And I mean, hopefully he can pick it up back up, because I don't really know where else he's going to fit.
Yeah, and what's tough too is the guys who are most ready to come up from AAA. They play them like Gabriel Arias plays the middle infield. Tyler Freeman, who's just smoking the ball at AAA right now, plays second base. Nolan Jones obviously was a third baseman. They've been playing him in right field because we had a hole in the outfield. Nobody really thought Oscar Gonzalez could come up and be like a solid major leaguer just because of his chase rate. But so you got Nolan Jones in the outfield, and my ideal scenario, because I don't think that you can field the team with Owen Miller and Ernie Clement in the same lineup. I just think that's too many holes when you add the catcher position, where I think we also got to be a little patient too, because with the past guys, Yu Chang, Bobby Bradley Zimmer, Oscar Mercado, they got those years. Yeah, we got those frustrating long looks at them, but this year their leash was a little bit shorter. But they still got, Bobby Bradley especially got those consistent at bats to be like, all right, this is your chance. This is put up or shut up time. And I think that's what we're seeing with Owen Miller right now. We're seeing that, like, all right, dude, are you an everyday player or are you a utility guy? Just let us know who you are, because if he's got a little more pop than Ernie. His glove's not as good as Ernie, but the problem with Ernie is I don't know that his bat will play up here. We know he plays good defense, solid clubhouse guy, even pitched the other night, was the backup catcher. All those things are super valuable to a clubhouse, and the guys love that. And he's got an awesome personality. But I think it's going to come down to having to choose between Owen Miller and Ernie Clement for that utility spot. So you can get a guy like Tyler Freeman up here, who's our top prospect, probably has the best hit tools in the entire organization, which is saying a lot because we have some good ones. But yeah, he had a 4-hit game today. I think Columbus's game is still going on. But dude just hits. And I think at some point, Gabriel Arias had all those freak injuries over the past week, fouled a ball off his face, got hit in the wrist. But we know he's going to be up here at some point too, because they got to choose between these guys, and you can't have Owen Miller and Ernie Clement. We got to pick one. And
it's gonna be. I'm torn on both of them, right? Because me, I'm a defensive guy, right? I mean, watching this team for as long as I have, we're not like the Bronx Bombers, right? We don't average 6-7 runs a game, often, right? We'll have our spurts. We'll have like a great day at the ballpark and put up a bunch of runs, but it comes down to it. Personally, I think Ernie Clement is a better defender than Owen Miller, but Owen Miller is clearly a better hitter than Ernie Clement. And we're sort of in that crossroad where it's like, what are we valuing more at the time? Because over these last couple of weeks, we can't hit the side of the barn, right? But
Owen could get you a decent return in a trade too. He could be a major league piece in a pretty decent sized deal, whether it's Sean Murphy, whether it's Wilson Contreras and Ian Happ. He could be that major league piece in a deal at the deadline. And I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it's just it's crazy. I've never analyzed a season quite like this, because this is our first time doing a podcast together, and it sort of gets gets lost in the threads of like, wow, we started the year with Bobby Bradley, we started with Yu Chang, started with Oscar Mercado. And then if you look back at last season, there's probably a bunch of names that just fly over my head of like where we started versus where we ended. And it's going to come down to these tough decisions, right? Like, I didn't think that Ernie Clement wasn't going to be a part of the team by the end of the year, nor did I think Owen Miller was going to get, put into trade talks, and seems like it could be his way out. But it's like, we're at that point where I wouldn't want to be the GM right now. I do not want to be Chris Antonetti. I don't want to be Mike Chernoff. I don't want to be Tito. I mean, this is tough, and this is a business, but both of them need to pick it up. And like you were saying, it's going to come down to either one of them to be that utility guy, because they've proven that they can't stay consistent, in that lineup.
Yeah. And there's too many guys behind them. And that this year has always been process over results. And I think that's why it's important to kind of analyze, like, it goes beyond the box score a little bit. Like, how do these guys' swings look? Are they hitting the off-speed pitches? Oscar Gonzalez, he has a problem chasing balls out of the zone. He was getting really into that, over the weekend against Boston. Teams are starting to throw him those breaking pitches. He started laying off of them yesterday, and he was getting extra base hits. And that's that improvement we need to see. Same with Stephen Kwan, right? He got real cold in the month of May. He picked it back up and has had a pretty decent May or June overall, and he's our leadoff hitter. So it's like these improvements we want to see. And we knew they weren't going to stay as hot as they were last week in Minnesota and on that road trip. But they're not as bad as they are right now either. It's part of the ebbs and flows. This team's pressing a little too hard. Their heads might have got a little big after that road trip. They move into first place. You got to continue proving yourself at this level, because the league is always going to adjust to you. You can't ever get too comfortable. And I think they're going to level off here. Over the next week or so. I think we're going to see a better offense. But again, we can't get too caught up in the wins and losses. Obviously, there's a ton of frustration with Guardians fans right now. And it's just crazy to me how they went from the most talked about team in all of baseball last week, and now, bam, 3 games back, only 3 games over 500. Like, that's how fast it can change. And I think these guys are really starting to see firsthand what it takes to stay at this level.
Right. I was on MLB.com on Monday morning, right? They released their power rankings after every Sunday, and we got moved into the top 10. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, right where we deserve.
In and out.
Boom, swept. It's like, yeah, it was just tough, right? Because we're trying to prove ourselves. We're trying to play with the big guys, right? And Boston did not take us lightly. I mean, they just came in, did their job, and
they're hitting their stride.
Yeah,
they're starting to
team,
really, yeah. They're pulling it all together at the right time.
Right.
We did not see them when they were cold. That's for sure.
Right. So Boston took care of business, and Minnesota, it's looking right now like they're taking care of their business. I know we won that first end of the doubleheader, but we'll get into that a little later. It was really more of just like a lucky pop-up from Franmil Reyes that jump-started us there. But let's just, try to track it back to happier times here. Recap that crazy 11-10 win over the Minnesota Twins, where we scored 4 times in the 9th inning. Tristan, big topic of conversation. He has not been throwing the ball well at all over his last couple starts. So he struggled big time in this one. And it's becoming a concerning pattern, right? And it looks like we keep having to go back to that bullpen earlier and earlier on, start by start. But this was one of his worst outings of the year. 4 1/3 innings pitched, 9 hits, 6 earned runs. He had 5 strikeouts and a walk. So, I mean, he wasn't keeping the ball in the ballpark either. 3 home runs, allowed 2 to Correa and 1 to Kepler. Oh man. I mean, for most of the season here, it seems as if like Tristan's been our second most, consistent starter behind Shane Bieber, but slowly starting to become Zach Plesac for me. Right.
Yeah. And, I was at the game Monday too, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but I saw him in person, and this is why he is one of the most frustrating prospects now, just player on this team, period, because he shows you flashes of brilliance where he just puts it all together and he looks outstanding. But then it's followed by stretches like this where it's like he seemingly forgets how to pitch. And, last week, in that game, he was hardly using his curveball, which was strange because that was such a dynamite pitch for him when he's on. And he's a 3-pitch pitcher. If you're not using your curveball, you're only giving the hitters 1 or 2 pitches. And if you're not throwing your fastball for strikes, that's leaving them 1 pitch to sit on. And this is the problem that he runs into. And he relies on command so much because his pitches are flat. He's not a guy who throws with a lot of movement. You know, his velocity's fine. It was down a couple ticks on Monday, but you know, typically 93, 94 miles an hour, but you got to locate it. And when he's missing with his curveball, he's missing right down the middle of the plate. 79 miles an hour, dead center. It's going to get hit 450 feet.
It's not even like they're down. It's not like a tough pitch you have to dig out of the bottom of the zone. These are meatballs, guys.
Yeah, it's batting practice. It's not even a weapon for him anymore. It's a weapon for the hitters because it's right down the middle of the plate.
And imagine being the hitter knowing that. Right. This guy is not hitting with his fastball. His changeup seems to be, you know, tailing out of the zone a little bit. And
I'm going to sit on that 79 mile an hour meatball right over the middle of the plate.
Because if you're not throwing that fastball for a strike, it's like that's all they'll sit on. Right. Because they're not expecting you blown away by the fastball. You're not throwing it in the zone. So it's not a worry to them. But yeah, I mean, he's got to chip away on what he's got to work on there. But just to recap what was going on, the Guards were down 5-1 in that 5th inning of that start. And, you know, that's where it all started coming back, right? Hedges hit a solo home run. It was nice to see him with some offensive input before he was put on the IL for that concussion. Hopefully, you know, he recovers well and we can get him back out there. But, you know, following that home run from Hedges, Straw doubled and then followed up with a Quan triple, made it 5-3, and Quan scored on a bad pickoff attempt, making it 5-4. So it was pretty good outing for the Cleveland offense, and that's basically all we've seen since, right? I mean, these last couple games haven't really been scoring too many runs, and when we did get a win, we were putting up 3 runs the other day. That's what got us the W. So
yeah, that game was just. And that's the thing, like now this team has lost all their fight. In this game, the offense had every reason to lose their fight. The pitching staff, whether it was Tristan, whether it was Anthony freaking Castro, who did he come in that game after Anthony goes? And I don't want to hear, the bullpen was tired. He needed innings. Anthony Castro never needs innings. He's a guy who you put in your bullpen to take up a seat. And in a pinch, you use him if it's a blowout. One way or the other. There's plenty of other opportunities you could have put Anthony Castro in that game, but whatever. He started that 7th, and this was after we went up, I think 7-6. So we're playing with a 1-run lead. Like you need Henches or Eli Morgan in there, without a doubt. One of them has to be in that game. And I'm like, maybe Sam Henches, you know, maybe he's not available tonight. But once Anthony Castro walked Kepler, gave up the single to Sanchez, the lefty Kirilloff came up. Why would you not bring Sam Henches in to face the lefty? Well, we know what happens. You know, Kirilloff beat the shift, got the single, and then the killer 3-run homer by Urshela. Like, we're just lucky that didn't cost us because it made no sense, especially when Henches came out to start the 8th. Like, that was a bad Tito move. And listen, I get it. He's a Hall of Fame manager. He's been outstanding for us, but that doesn't mean he's not exempt from criticism when you make decisions like this. We won in spite of that decision, right? Just because we won doesn't make it a good decision.
Yeah, so something's telling me that, I mean, maybe that Castro move was brought on by the front office. Like, hey, this guy is just sitting in our bullpen. Like, have we used him? Tito, you want to get him out there? And then Tito's like, hey, you want to be a major league pitcher? Get us out of this jam. And then that didn't work. So, I mean,
and they were deflated in the 8th. You know, they struck Pagan struck out the side in the 8th. So we're like, oh God, that was the last kick in the gut for this offense, right?
And everyone was raging. Yeah, that was not a happy hour for Cleveland Guardians fans there. But
and then the 9th, just outstanding.
Yeah, look, the team fights, but I'm just so down from what's happened over this last week or so that, like, you know,
I'll make you smile. Can we talk about Andres Gimenez with runners in scoring position?
Yeah. Hey, look, that's a good topic.
8th inning on, 410 average, 4 home runs, 16 RBIs with runners in scoring position, period. 418 average, 5 homers, 31 RBIs. He has 12 go-ahead RBIs on the year, which is only behind the one and only Jose Ramirez. Like, let's get this guy to LA. Like, he's third right now, but behind Santiago freaking Espinal, because the dude has a whole country voting for him. Like,
Good joke, yeah.
I'm hoping we got some Mets fans voting for Jimenez too. We could use their votes.
Look, I'm pretty confident, and it's pretty much a given that Jose Altuve is not going to lose that spot. But if we can still get him to LA, what is it? Top 2 in each position, get a shot to go. Yeah. So, yeah, get Espinal out of there. Like Toronto, it's like they're not. I don't know. They play meaningful games. He's a good defender, but like if you just look at the offensive statistics, Andrés Giménez is just getting the job done. But I mean, yeah, it's. Are we even going to go over what happened against Boston? I mean, it was pretty rough, right? We got swept, losing games 6-3, 4-2, and then 8-3. So, thing that's sticking out to me the most from that series is we scored 3, 2, and 3. So that's 7 runs in 3 games, and that's not going to cut it, especially against a team like Boston, who's fighting for a playoff spot in that wild card position.
Yeah, we haven't scored more than 4 runs since we beat the Twins, 11-10.
That's why I feel so empty.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games in a row we've scored less than 4 runs. And like that Saturday game, I thought for sure we had it, but Bieber did his best Tristan impression and left a meatball right over the plate to Verdugo. And there was no coming back from that.
Ball was cranked.
Yeah. Just with how bad this offense it has been doing. It's like they used all their juice in that 11-10 game. And that's what makes me think this team. And so here's the thing. This team needs a spark one way or the other, right? It's either a call up. They got real hot after Oscar Gonzalez got called up back at the end of May. When you bring a guy, a young kid who all the fans are excited about, it sparks the team up a little bit. Or Andrés Giménez got hit in the ribs twice yesterday. Hit one of their guys.
Yeah.
Hit a rise right in the thigh. Right? Something to jack these guys up because they are lifeless. They are just going through the motions right now.
Mel and I don't condone violence.
But I do condone plunking somebody in the thigh.
Yeah.
Nothing in the head, nothing that's going to put them on the IL. Keep it low.
Keep it low.
Get them fired up.
Look, yeah, we got to get something moving because it's sort of seemed like it's just lolling along, right? Like, loss after loss after loss. Oh, a win. Oh, but it was gifted to us. Like it wasn't exactly exciting. I know we had an 8th inning comeback in that first inning of the doubleheader yesterday, but I mean, when you follow it up, like my friend's like, I'm feeling confident to bet the Guardians in game 1. I was like, okay, it could be a move. And then once we won, he was like, I'm putting heavy on the Twins. Because like the win wasn't at all convincing, and we didn't even score a run in that second end of the doubleheader. But like, I don't know, the team seems to be missing something, and it looks like they're coming into the ballpark. They're not scoring early. They're giving up runs early, which doesn't help, especially the bullpen sake. Like, I don't know, but
yeah, and that's a big thing too, because that affects the pitching staff too when they're constantly pitching from behind. It doesn't really give them a chance to settle in and get comfortable, but. I mean, the lone bright spot in this whole offense, the past couple of weeks, since that 11-10 game, it's been Ahmed Rosario, right? The guy who we're all screaming to be traded. I'm leading the way in that. He's increasing his value so much that I think they're going to keep him until the winter, which is good because I'm all for this team winning first, right? They could trade him in the offseason. That's fine. But in the month of June, he's hitting 356, 2 homers, 36 hits. 11 runs or 19 runs, 5 doubles, and 9 multi-hit games. And 5 of those, he's had 3+ hits, which I think he also did in game 1 of the doubleheader yesterday when obviously he had the game-winning single. So he's doing his best, but like he can't do it alone. There's no one getting on base in front of him. I think, what was it? I think Sunday, 7, 8, 9, 1, and 2. It was Ernie Clement, Luke Maile, Miles Straw, Owen Miller, and Rosario were a combined 2 for 18. And that's just not going to work in front of Jose Ramirez, who was 3 for 4 on the day. Part of what makes him so valuable in that 3-hole is the ability to drive in runs. And if nobody's on base, he's just standing on second by himself, right? Like, that's what's going to get this team moving again. They got to get it going at the top. And that's what I'm going to be looking for tonight. You know, they're facing Dylan Bundy tonight, a righty. So we have our normal lineup in there that just got released shortly. And all the faces we want to see are in it. He's 4-4 with a 4.80 ERA.
Get on the board early.
Get on the board early. You got
Take
Cal
your
on the
walks and
mound.
get your hits.
Cal needs a bounce back, right? Cal was allowing way too much traffic on the bases against ball. He was constantly living on the edge.
That was rough.
Which only allowed him to go 5 innings. He's got to tone it down so he can go deeper into games because, like, this bullpen's taxed right now.
Right.
And, you know, I think the bullpen might even need, you know, some new faces. Karinchak might be back here shortly, but we'll see what that does because he's struggling too.
I'm thinking very positively over these next couple games here, right? We got
Yeah,
Dylan
tell us
Bundy.
About the Yankees too.
Yeah,
guy.
Oh yeah. So I mean, we got Cal Quantrill versus Dylan Bundy. So it's just about Cal keeping it in the ballpark, right? He's had his home run troubles, keeping guys off the bases, right? Let's just do quick innings, man. No need to take out your whole 6-pitch arsenal, right? It's just, you know, be productive, be efficient, get on to the next inning. And then you have Shane Bieber, right, in his own right, has you know, just gotten this team out of so many jams, right? Like, I forgot what his record is after a loss, but that's the guy that you want on the mound any given day of the week. So he's got Chris Archer, who started his career
he's
off
still
quite
pitching.
Nicely. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Started off his career nicely. Then he's been quite irrelevant over the last 3 or 4 seasons. And he's having a bit of a revival here in Minnesota, but still 2-3 with a 3.14 ERA. And certainly gives us some room to do some damage. So that's also going to be a day game. So if anybody's out in Cleveland, go enjoy yourself there. But Friday and Saturday and Sunday, we got the New York Yankees coming to town. For all of those that don't remember, Miles Straw still needs his day of vengeance, right? Should we say? And it's Savali on the mound versus Garrett Cole to start it all off on Friday night. But I was telling Mel before the podcast, right? I'm looking at this lineup: Nestor Cortez, Jordan Montgomery, and Garrett Cole. If we're going to win any of these games, it's going to be our pitching, because these guys have given up their fair share of runs this year. Nestor Cortez, I believe he started the year 6-0. He's 6-3 now, right? And that ERA, which was in the low ones, is now up at 2.51. So like, it's slowly starting to tick up in that end. Jordan Montgomery has, in my opinion, has always been a hittable pitcher. It's just that record right there, 3-1. When you're pitching for the Yankees, you know, you're going to have a lot of no decisions if you're not an overpowering pitcher, because they're going to score those runs and either get you wins or get you off the hook for losses. And if you look at Nestor Cortez and Garrett Cole, 6-2, 6-3, you got Jordan Montgomery, who's 3-1, which is showing you that he's not, you know, the focus of the game. It's that offense that's going to be bailing him out a little bit. But versus Montgomery, we got Plesac on Sunday. Tristan is on Saturday, and I don't really know what to expect out of that game. Hopefully he can keep the ball in the ballpark, because I mean, these guys can hit the ball, right? Aaron Judge is just on a tear right now. Stanton can crush the ball. Anthony Rizzo's got like 10 home runs in his last 25 games, something like that. It's absurd. So,
yeah,
I mean, we'll see. But look, if anybody's going down to the ballpark, you're going to be in for a treat over these next couple of games. I'm going to be thinking that the Guardians take these next 2 games over against the Twins, right? We have the matchups. We're frustrated, and I think we're about done with this BS, just to put it frankly, right? Like, it's about time we fix this up. But yeah, it's got that tough series against the Yankees, who have had an outstanding season. And I guess, you know, this is make or break. Again, it seems like we're doing this every other week, right? We're having a tear offensively with some good games string together, and then we fall off a little bit, and then we're like, okay, here's the season coming up. But if we can't compete against the Yankees and we drop these 2 to the Twins coming up, like, we're in a bad spot. We're in a really bad spot. So kind of just, you know, want to hear what your X factor is over these next couple of games.
Yeah, so it's important to remember too, if we can win these next 2 against Minnesota, which, like you said, are very winnable games, we still win the series against them. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that the goal coming in a 5-game series was to like just fly in front of the Twins and not look back. You know, the Twins just got Jorge Polanco back. They're a good team. That probably is, you know, who we're going to be battling with. just stay within reach, right? We don't have to jump them and never look back. It's going to be a back and forth. The AL Central always is. Win the series, keep it moving into the Yankee series. And then it gets a lot easier after that. And we got a lot of AL Central games against Detroit and Chicago. So, they can breathe a little bit. I'm going to be looking at Aaron Savali too on Friday. He had a really good start in his first start off the IL last Tuesday. And then he shit the bed against Boston over the weekend. So which Savali is going to show up, because it better be the good one against Garrett Cole. But Savali and Tristan, all three of those guys, they got to keep the ball in the ballpark.
Mhm.
I really hope the
Help
wind's
your
not
team.
blowing out. Like we need all the help we can get.
Listen, I'm fine if you give up runs, man. Just it's those home runs that are like,
and keep them solo. If
infuriating.
so,
Yeah. What was it? It was the other night. Somebody gave up a 3-run bomb, and that was the game, just right there.
Yeah.
It's like 2 guys on, and you give up a massive home run. It puts you down 3. It's like, you got to give us a chance, right? You got to give your offense a chance. And that's not saying much, being that we are averaging over this last week and a half about 2.5 runs per game. But like, man, just pitching's got to give us a chance, and hopefully the offense can pick it back up. But just a reminder to everybody, Andreas Jimenez, like you were saying, Mel, earlier in the podcast, is in third position at second base for All-Star voting. Jose Ramirez is now finally leading Rafael Devers in that third base selection as well. So just wanted to, shout out to everybody who's getting those votes in. Keep voting. It's always awesome to have that Cleveland Guardians presence in the All-Star game. It certainly brings us a lot of pride. So get those guys on your ballots, and really wanted to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Hopefully we can get some wins. The lows aren't going to last forever, but just wishing everybody a great week here coming up. Let's get some wins against the Yankees. I'll pass it off to Mel to take us out.
Yeah, happy 4th of July, everyone. Let's hope the fireworks are on the Guardians side this weekend and not the Yankees. Let's hope this team can get a little bit closer to what we saw from them last week, the team that was leading the league with runners in scoring position. We got to see those guys again. Let's hope we see some life tonight. But, until we see you next week, when I hope we're talking about some wins, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you next week.